My name is Marina, and I'm 32. Until 4 months ago, I thought I had it all. A successful career as an interior designer, a handsome fiancé named Jason, and a close family I trusted completely. Then I walked in on Jason and my sister Sophia locked in an embrace at our engagement party. What followed was unimaginable. Not only did my family take their side, but they actually excluded me from Christmas while inviting them. The decision I made after that betrayal changed everything. If you're watching, please let me know where you're tuning in from and hit subscribe to hear how I turned devastating betrayal into unexpected triumph. Growing up in a middle-class suburban Boston family, I always felt a mix of love and subtle competition. My parents, Margaret and Robert, were hard-working people who provided a comfortable life for my sister Sophia and me. Our house wasn't fancy, but it was filled with family photos, second-hand furniture my mother lovingly restored, and the constant smell of something delicious baking in the kitchen. From early childhood, I noticed the subtle preference my parents had for Sophia. She was 3 years younger, with naturally blonde hair and a bubbly personality that charmed everyone around her. When we were kids, she'd often break something of mine and receive only minor scolding while I'd be lectured about being the big sister and setting an example. I accepted this dynamic as normal thinking. That's just how family worked. Despite this undercurrent of favoritism, I forged my own path. I excelled academically and discovered my passion for interior design during high school when I helped my aunt remodel her living room. The way spaces could transform people's moods and lives fascinated me. I worked part-time jobs to pay for design courses and eventually earned a scholarship to a prestigious design program in Boston. After graduation, I started at the bottom of a well-known design firm, often working 60-hour weeks to prove myself. By 28, I had built a solid reputation and client base, specializing in transforming outdated spaces into modern, functional homes that still retained character and warmth. My career trajectory was everything I'd hoped for. Then came Jason Anderson. I met him 4 years ago while finalizing a home staging project for a luxury condo. He was the real estate agent, tall with dark, wavy hair and a warm smile that reached his hazel eyes. When he complimented my work, noting specific details most people would miss, I was impressed by his attentiveness. The way you balance the modern elements with vintage pieces is extraordinary, he said, running his hand along a restored mid-century credenza I'd sourced from a local antique shop. It gives the space character while still appealing to younger buyers. Our first date was at a small Italian restaurant where we talked until closing time, discovering shared passions for historic architecture, nature hikes, and classic films. What started as attraction quickly deepened into something that felt substantial and real. Over 3 years together, Jason and I built what I thought was a solid foundation. We traveled to Maine to see full foliage, spent weekends exploring antique shops for my projects, and slowly merged our lives. He was thoughtful, bringing me coffee exactly how I liked it. During stressful project deadlines, remembering small details about my preferences and dislikes. When I got food poisoning from a seafood restaurant, he took a day off work to care for me, making homemade chicken soup from his grandmother's recipe. I introduced Jason to my family 6 months into our relationship. My parents immediately embraced him in a way that was both wonderful and slightly painful. My father, normally reserved with my previous boyfriends, invited Jason to watch sports in his den, a sacred male bonding ritual in our household. My mother cooked his favorite meals and called him the son we never had. Sophia, then 26, was surprisingly welcoming, complimenting his taste in music and asking his advice about her dating life. For once, family gatherings felt complete. Jason charmed my extended family at reunions, remembered my cousins' names, and helped my father with household repairs. He was the perfect addition to our family dynamic, and I basked in the warm glow of what seemed like universal approval. The proposal came during a weekend trip to Cape Cod. We were walking along the beach at sunset when Jason stopped, took both my hands in his, and got down on one knee. The ring was vintage, a beautiful sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds. "Marina, you've shown me what home really feels like," he said, his voice catching slightly. "Will you marry me and build a life together?" My tears of joy reflected the pink-orange sunset as I said yes. That evening we called my parents, who responded with enthusiastic congratulations. Sophia's reaction in hindsight should have been my first warning sign. Her "that's great, congrats" sounded flat, almost forced. The next few months were a whirlwind of wedding planning. My mother and Sophia both wanted to be heavily involved. At first, I appreciated their enthusiasm. Selecting venues, discussing colour schemes, and browsing wedding dresses together felt like the female bonding I'd always craved from my family. But looking back, there were subtle signs I missed. Sophia began texting Jason directly about wedding details, instead of including me in group messages. She started dropping by our apartment unexpectedly when she knew I'd be at work, but Jason might be home. She began adopting his interests, suddenly becoming passionate about architecture and asking him for book recommendations. Jason, too, began changing in ways I didn't immediately register. He started attending gym sessions at times that coincided with Sophia's schedule. His phone would light up with texts that he'd quickly hide when I entered the room. He developed sudden interests in activities Sophia enjoyed, like tennis and wine tasting, that he'd previously shown no enthusiasm for. I dismissed the unease these changes stirred in me. Jason and I were busy with our careers and wedding planning, so when date nights became less frequent or conversations less intimate, I attributed it to normal pre-wedding stress. When I mentioned my concerns to my mother, she laughed. "Don't be one of those paranoid brides, Marina. Jason is just getting to know the family better. That's a good thing." I believed her because why wouldn't I? These people were my foundation, my safe place. I never imagined they were capable of the betrayal that was brewing just beneath the surface of our seemingly perfect life. The day that shattered my world was supposed to be a celebration. My parents had planned an engagement dinner at their house. Nothing fancy, just immediate family gathering to toast our upcoming wedding. I'd spent the morning at a final dress fitting, feeling beautiful and excited about the future ahead. I arrived at my parents' house an hour early to help my mother prepare. The autumn air was crisp, and the maple tree in their front yard was ablaze with red and orange leaves. The familiar scent of my mother's pot roast, the meal she always made for special occasions, greeted me as I used my key to let myself in. "Mom, Dad, I'm here early to help set up," I called out, dropping my purse on the entryway table. No response came from the kitchen, but I heard muffled sounds from the hallway leading to the guest bathroom. Thinking someone might be ill, I walked toward the noise. The bathroom door wasn't fully closed, and through the crack I saw something that stopped my heart. Jason had Sophia pressed against the sink counter, his hands tangled in her hair as they kissed passionately. Her arms were wrapped around his neck, and they were so engrossed in each other they didn't hear me gasp. Time seemed to freeze and accelerate simultaneously. My body moved before my mind could process what was happening. I pushed the door open fully the bang as it hit the wall, causing them to spring apart. "Marina," Jason's face drained of colour. It just happened." Sophia didn't even have the decency to look ashamed. She straightened her blouse and flipped her hair back. "We didn't want you to find out this way." "Find out what way?" My voice sounded distant, as though someone else was speaking. "That my sister and fiancé are having an affair. Were you planning a special announcement at dinner, perhaps after we cut the engagement cake?" Jason stepped toward me, hands outstretched. "Marina, please. It's complicated. We never meant to hurt you." I backed away my engagement ring, suddenly feeling like it was burning into my flesh. "How long has this been going on?" Their exchanged glance told me everything. "Months," Sophia finally admitted. "We tried to fight it, but But what? I cut her off. But betraying me was just too tempting, but destroying my life seemed like a fun afternoon activity. The front door opened, and I heard my parents' voices as they returned from grocery shopping for the dinner. Their cheerful chatter about wine selection created a surreal contrast to the scene unfolding in the bathroom. "Marina, are you here already?" my mother called out. When they rounded the corner and saw the three of us, me with tears streaming down my face, Jason looking guilty, and Sophia with her lipstick smeared, confusion crossed their features. "What's going on?" my father asked, setting down the grocery bags. "Ask your daughter and my fiancé," I said, my voice breaking. "They've been having an affair behind my back for months." I expected shock outrage on my behalf, or at least confusion. What I didn't expect was my mother's response. "Oh dear," she said, looking between the three of us. "Marina, try to calm down. Let's all talk about this rationally." Rationally, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You want me to be rational about finding my sister and fiancé together?" My father placed a hand on my shoulder. "Sweetheart, these things happen. People can't always control who they fall for. Let's sit down and discuss this like adults." I shrugged his hand off, looking at my family with new eyes. "Are you serious right now?" "You're not even surprised." The silence that followed confirmed my suspicion. They knew. My own parents knew about the affair and hadn't warned me. "How long have you known?" I demanded. My mother glanced at my father before answering. "Sophia confided in us a few weeks ago. We thought it would be best if they told you themselves after the engagement dinner." "So you were all going to sit through a dinner celebrating my engagement, knowing it was a sham?" The betrayal cut deeper with each revelation. "Were you going to toast to our future while knowing there wouldn't be one?" "Marina, you're overreacting," my mother said, her tone shifting from concerned to irritated. "These things happen in families. We need to find a way forward that works for everyone." "A way forward?" I echoed in disbelief. "There is no way forward where I'm in the same room as these two ever again." I turned to leave, but Jason grabbed my arm. "Marina, please. I never meant for this to happen. I still care about you." I yanked my arm away. "Don't you dare touch me. Don't contact me. Don't come to our apartment. I'll have your things sent to you." As I walked toward the door, I heard my mother call after me. "Marina, don't leave like this. What about dinner? Everyone will be here soon." I turned back one last time, taking in the tableau of my family, my mother looking annoyed rather than sympathetic, my father awkwardly hovering, Sophia still flushed from kissing my fiancé, and Jason looking more worried about the scene I was causing than the pain he'd inflicted. "Go ahead with your dinner," I said quietly. "Clearly my presence isn't necessary for this family to function." The drive home was a blur of tears and disbelief. Traffic lights and street signs melted together as I navigated on autopilot. When I finally reached my apartment, the one Jason and I had carefully decorated together, I collapsed on the couch and called the only person I could trust. "Layla, I need you," I sobbed when my best friend answered. 30 minutes later, Layla was at my door with ice cream wine and a shoulder to cry on. As I recounted what had happened, her expressions shifted from shock to outrage to fierce protectiveness. "Your parents knew," she repeated, incredulous, "and they were just going to let you go through with the engagement dinner. Apparently finding a way forward that works for everyone was more important than my feelings." I said, the wine doing little to numb the pain. Layla stayed with me that night, helping me move Jason's belongings into boxes and listening as I cycled through grief, rage, and disbelief. As I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, the warning signs I'd missed played on repeat in my mind. Sophia's frequent visits, Jason's guarded phone, the new shared interests, the way they'd sit next to each other at family gatherings. How had I been so blind? How had I trusted so completely? And how could I ever trust anyone again after those I loved most had conspired to betray me? The week following the discovery was the hardest of my life. I moved through each day in a fog of betrayal and disbelief, struggling to process how quickly my world had collapsed. I called in sick to work for 3 days, unable to focus on colour schemes and furniture layouts when my personal life was in shambles. I expected my parents to reach out, to apologise, to check on me, to show some recognition of how deeply they'd hurt me. The calls and texts that came were nothing like what I needed. "Marina, you need to return Jason's calls. You're being immature about this whole situation," my mother texted on Tuesday morning. "We need to talk about the non-refundable wedding deposits," my father wrote that same afternoon. No concern for my well-being, no acknowledgement of the pain they'd caused, just practical matters and criticism of my reaction. When I finally gathered the strength to call my mother, her cold response left me speechless. "Marina, these things happen in life. People fall in and out of love. You need to start thinking about moving forward instead of dwelling on this." "Moving forward," I repeated, my voice rising. "Mum, my fiancé and sister were having an affair, and you knew about it." "They didn't plan to fall in love, Marina," she sighed as if explaining something to a child. "Sometimes the heart wants what it wants." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And what about my heart? What about the fact that the two people I trusted most betrayed me in the worst possible way? "You've always been so dramatic," she replied dismissively. "This isn't just about you. Have you considered how difficult this is for them, for all of us?" The conversation ended with me in tears and my mother telling me to call when you're ready to be reasonable. My father's follow-up call focused entirely on the financial aspects. The lost deposits, the catering cancellation fees, the non-refundable venue booking. "We put a lot of money into this wedding, Marina," he said, his tone making it clear he considered this an inconvenient financial setback rather than a devastating emotional blow. "We can't just throw that away because feelings got hurt." "Feelings got hurt," I repeated, stunned. "Dad, this isn't a minor disagreement. Jason and Sophia betrayed me, and you and Mum covered for them." His heavy sigh told me everything I needed to know about where his priorities lay. "We were trying to handle this in a way that wouldn't tear the family apart. Now look what's happening." The revelation that tore my heart open even further came from my cousin Amber, who called to check on me after hearing rumours about the cancelled engagement. "I feel terrible about everything," she said hesitantly, "especially after what Sophia's been saying about you and Jason." My stomach dropped. What has she been saying? That you were neglecting Jason? That you were always working and never had time for him? That he was lonely and she was just being a supportive friend at first? Amber's voice grew quieter. "She's been telling everyone that you drove him away and then overreacted when they developed feelings for each other." The character assassination stung almost as much as the betrayal. While I'd been crying myself to sleep, Sophia had been busy crafting a narrative that made me the villain of the story, and my family was believing it. One by one, extended family members reached out not to offer support, but to reason with me. Aunt Linda suggested I take the high road and consider forgiveness. Uncle Paul wondered if I'd contributed to the problem by focusing too much on my career. Each conversation revealed how effectively Sophia had spun her version of events, painting herself as the reluctant romantic heroine and me as the cold, career-obsessed woman who had practically pushed them together. The following week, my mother suggested we meet at a cafe to work things out. Desperate for some semblance of parental support, I agreed. The bistro was decorated for fall with mini pumpkins and leaf garlands, creating a cozy atmosphere that felt at odds with the ice in my heart. My parents arrived 15 minutes late. My mother's first words weren't, "How are you?" but, "You look terrible, haven't you been sleeping?" "Not really," I replied, stirring my untouched coffee. "Finding out my entire family has betrayed me has made rest difficult." My father frowned. "That's exactly the kind of dramatic statement that makes this harder than it needs to be. We think you need to start moving past this." My mother added, her tone businesslike. Jason has been staying with us while you cool down, and he's really quite heartbroken about how things happened. He's staying with you." The knife twisted deeper. "My fiancé cheats with my sister, and you're giving him my childhood bedroom." "He needed somewhere to go," my father explained, as if this were perfectly reasonable. "And it gives him and Sophia a chance to figure out their relationship without added pressure." "Their relationship?" I repeated the words, testing their reality. "So they're officially together now, with your blessing." My mother reached across the table as if to take my hand, but I pulled away. "Marina, they care about each other. It's unfortunate how it happened, but fighting against love never works. We're just being practical." "Practical," I echoed. "Is that what you call betraying your daughter?" "Now that's enough," my father said sharply. "We understand you're hurt, but life goes on. Thanksgiving is coming up, and we think it might be best if you give it a miss this year, just until things settle down." The final blow landed like a physical pain in my chest. "You're uninviting me from Thanksgiving while inviting the two people who betrayed me. Sophia is our daughter too," my mother replied defensively. "And Jason has become part of the family. We're just trying to avoid an uncomfortable situation by creating an even more painful one for me," I said, rising from the table. "Thank you for making it crystal clear where I stand in this family." "Marina, don't be like this," my mother called as I walked away. "Family is about forgiveness." I turned back one last time. "No, Mum. Family is about love and loyalty, something you, Dad, and Sophia know nothing about." That evening I blocked all their numbers, unable to bear any more justifications or defences of the indefensible. The only family member who reached out with genuine concern was my grandmother, who lived in Florida and had heard snippets of the situation from my mother. "Marina, my darling," her wavering voice came through the phone. "I don't know exactly what's happened, but I know you. You've always been my thoughtful, kind granddaughter. Whatever's going on, I'm on your side." Her unconditional support brought fresh tears, but for the first time, they weren't entirely tears of pain. Someone in my family still saw me, really saw me, and that tiny spark of validation helped me survive the coming weeks. As December approached, the wound of betrayal remained raw, but I'd managed to return to work and go through the motions of daily life. My apartment, once filled with reminders of Jason, had been purged of his presence. Photos removed, gifts packed away, even the furniture rearranged to create a new energy. Layla had been my rock, checking in daily and dragging me to yoga classes when all I wanted was to hide under the covers. The holiday decorations appearing around the city felt like a personal affront. Happy families in TV commercials, couples ice skating at the Boston Common Rink, the constant barrage of home for the holidays messaging, each reminder of family togetherness was salt in my still open wound. I'd been holding on to a small hope that my parents might reach out, that the approaching holiday season would soften their stance. The text message that came from my mother on December 10th destroyed that hope entirely. "Marina, regarding Christmas arrangements, we've decided it would be best if you skip this year. Jason and Sophia will be here along with Jason's parents who want to meet everyone. We think this will be easier for everyone involved. We can exchange gifts after the holidays." "Mum," I read the message repeatedly, each time feeling the knife twist deeper. Not only were they choosing Jason and Sophia over me again, but they were also welcoming his parents, people who should have been my in-laws, to celebrate while excluding their own daughter. When I could finally breathe through the pain, I called my mother. She answered on the fourth ring, her voice immediately defensive. "Marina, I hoped you'd understand our position without making a scene." "A scene?" My voice shook with emotion. "You're uninviting me from Christmas while hosting the man who cheated on me and the sister who betrayed me. And I'm making a scene by being upset about it." "This is exactly why we think it's better if you don't come," she replied coolly. "Your negative attitude would ruin the holiday for everyone." "My negative attitude?" I repeated in disbelief. Mum, do you hear yourself? Do you have any concept of what you're doing to me? Her sigh was heavy with impatience. Marina, I'm tired of your victim mentality. Sometimes in life, people fall in love unexpectedly. You need to grow up and accept that Jason and Sophia have something special. Something built on lies and betrayal, I countered, tears streaming down my face. Don't be petty, she sneered. They're in love. The sooner you accept that, the sooner we can all move forward as a family. Before I could respond, I heard Sophia's voice in the background, then my mother saying, "It's Marina being difficult about Christmas." There was a rustling sound, and then my sister's voice came through the phone, smug and confident. "Marina, you need to get over yourself. He chose the better woman. It happens. Stop trying to guilt everyone over it." Something inside me hardened in that moment, a protective shell forming around what remained of my heart. You know what, you're right. No more guilt. No more hoping you'll suddenly become decent human beings. You've all shown me exactly who you are, and I believe you. I ended the call and blocked their numbers again this time, with a sense of finality rather than hurt. The tears that followed weren't for the loss of Jason or even Sophia. They were mourning the death of what I'd thought my family was. Christmas Day arrived cold and clear sunlight sparkling off fresh snow that had fallen overnight. I'd declined Layla's invitation to join her family, not wanting to intrude on their traditions while carrying my emotional baggage. Instead, I'd planned a day of self-care, a new novel comfort food, and a deliberate avoidance of holiday movies. The knock at my door around noon surprised me. When I opened it, Layla stood there with her parents holding covered dishes and gift bags. "You didn't want to come to Christmas, so we brought Christmas to you," she announced, pushing past me into the apartment. Her parents followed her father, carrying a small tabletop Christmas tree. "We couldn't let you spend the day alone," Layla's mother said, hugging me tightly. "That's not what family does." That simple statement, "that's not what family does," broke the dam I'd built around my emotions. I sobbed in this kind woman's arms while her husband discreetly set up the tree and Layla arranged the food they'd brought. As we shared the meal, traditional Persian dishes from Layla's family heritage alongside American Christmas cookies, I watched how her parents interacted with each other and their daughter. The gentle teasing, the inside jokes, the way her father made sure her mother had her favourite foods, the proud glances they cast at Layla when she talked about her recent promotion. This was what family should be, people who lifted each other up, who protected rather than betrayed, who showed up when it mattered most. "Thank you," I said as they prepared to leave that evening. "Not just for today, but for showing me what real family looks like." Layla's mother cupped my face in her hands. "Blood makes relatives, Marina. Love makes family. Never forget the difference." As I closed the door behind them, I felt something shift inside me. Not healing exactly, not yet, but a first step toward understanding that I deserved better than what my biological family had offered. And perhaps someday I would build that better family for myself. January brought Boston's characteristic bitter cold, and with it, my own emotional deep freeze. The brief warmth of Christmas with Layla's family faded as I returned to my empty apartment and the reality of my situation. The new year, which should have represented hope and fresh starts, felt like just another reminder of how dramatically my life had derailed. My work suffered. Clients noticed my lack of enthusiasm during consultations. My boss pulled me aside after I missed a deadline for a major project. "Marina, I understand you're going through personal issues, but I need to know if you can handle your workload," she said, her tone making it clear this was more warning than concern. I promised to do better, but the truth was, I was barely functioning. I'd wake up, stare at the ceiling for an hour, force myself to shower and dress, then move through the day like a ghost, present physically but emotionally absent. Therapy was the one constructive step I took during this period. Dr. Winters, A compassionate woman in her 50s with a no-nonsense approach helped me navigate the complex grief of losing not just my relationship, but my entire family system. What you're experiencing is complicated grief, she explained during one session. You're mourning multiple losses simultaneously: your fiancé, your sister, your parents, and most painfully, the loss of your understanding of who these people were in your life. She helped me see that my family's behaviour reflected their own flaws, not my worthlessness. Still, intellectual understanding didn't immediately translate to emotional healing. The social media discovery came on a Tuesday night. Unable to sleep, I broke my own rule about checking social media and logged into Instagram. Sophia hadn't blocked me, perhaps assuming I'd blocked her first. Her recent post showed her hand entwined with Jason's, my engagement ring prominently displayed on her finger. The caption read, "Sometimes the heart finds its true home in unexpected places. #blessed, #soulmates. The comments section was filled with congratulations, including several from my extended family members. My mother had commented, "So happy you two found each other. Love wins." I threw my phone across the room, then spent the night alternating between sobbing and staring blankly at the wall. The next morning I called in sick, unable to face the world. That stretched into the entire week, with me barely leaving my bed except to use the bathroom and occasionally force down some toast. Layla found me in this state when she used her emergency key to check on me after I stopped responding to texts. "This ends now," she said firmly, opening my curtains and windows despite the winter chill. "Shower, I'll wait." Too exhausted to argue, I complied. When I emerged, she had cleaned my apartment, changed my bedsheets, and prepared a proper meal. "Eat," she commanded. "Then we talk." As we sat at my kitchen table, she reached for my hand. "Marina, I love you, but I won't watch you disappear. This isn't just sadness anymore. I'm worried about you." Her genuine concern pierced through the fog I'd been living in. "I don't know how to move forward," I admitted. "Everything I thought I knew, everyone I thought I could trust. It was all a lie." "Not everyone," she corrected gently. "I'm here. My family's here, and there are other people in the world who won't betray you like they did." The conversation that followed was hard but necessary. Layla helped me see that I was allowing those who hurt me to continue controlling my life through my depression. She made me promise to return to work, continue therapy, and start rebuilding step by step. The unexpected turning point came the following Monday. I'd forced myself back to work, going through the motions during a client consultation for a townhouse renovation. The client, Elaine Westbrook, was a striking woman in her early 50s with silver-streaked dark hair and an air of hard-won confidence. As we discussed her vision for her newly purchased home, she paused mid-sentence and studied me closely. "Forgive my directness, but are you all right? You seem elsewhere." Something about her kindly directness broke through my professional facade. "I'm sorry, I'm going through a difficult personal situation, but I shouldn't let it affect my work." Instead of the annoyance I expected, Elaine's expression softened. I recognized that look. I had it myself about 10 years ago when I found my husband of 20 years in bed with my business partner. Her candor startled me. "I'm sorry that happened to you." "I'm not. Not anymore," she replied, surprising me further. That betrayal became the best thing that ever happened to me, though it took time to see it that way. As she shared her story, how she'd rebuilt her life after divorce, started her own successful investment firm, and discovered strengths she never knew she possessed, I felt the first stirring of something I hadn't experienced in months' hope. "I'd like to hire you," she said when she finished, "not despite what you're going through, but because of it. I want someone designing my fresh start who understands what it means to need one." Working on Elaine's project became my lifeline. Unlike my other clients who wanted magazine-perfect spaces, Elaine wanted a home that reflected transformation and resilience. We chose materials that told stories, reclaimed wood that had weathered storms, metals that had been through fire and emerged stronger fabrics that combined delicate appearance with surprising durability. During our collaboration, Elaine became more than a client. She introduced me to her network of female friends, many successful entrepreneurs who had overcome significant personal challenges. They welcomed me into their circle with warmth and understanding I'd never experienced from my own family. At a dinner party at Elaine's temporary apartment, I met women who had rebuilt after divorce, career setbacks, health crises, and various betrayals. They shared their stories openly, without shame or self-pity, each emphasizing how their lowest points had eventually led to their greatest growth. The most important lesson I learned, said Diana, who had lost her first restaurant to a dishonest business partner, was that rock bottom is actually solid ground you can build on. There's nowhere to go but up. Their collective wisdom and the way they'd transformed pain into purpose planted a seed in my mind. What if my design skills could specifically help people in transition? What if I could create spaces that facilitated healing and new beginnings? The idea grew stronger as I worked on Elaine's home, seeing how thoughtful design choices were helping her reclaim her sense of self after betrayal. When we unveiled the completed project 2 months later, her emotional reaction confirmed I was onto something meaningful. "You've created more than a beautiful home," she said, hugging me tight. "You've created a space that honors who I've become through hardship. Not everyone would understand how to do that." That night, I stayed up late, researching business loans and creating the first draft of a business plan. For the first time since discovering Jason and Sophia together, I felt a spark of genuine excitement about the future. It wasn't just about survival anymore, it was about the possibility of building something meaningful from the wreckage of my old life. The next morning, I woke with clarity and purpose I hadn't felt in months. I might have lost my family and fiancé, but I was beginning to find myself, and that self was stronger and more determined than I'd ever realized. By early March, the seed of an idea that had formed during my work with Elaine had grown into a concrete business plan. I called it Phoenix Interiors, a design firm specializing in spaces for people going through major life transitions. The tagline came easily: "Rise from the ashes of change." My target clients would be people like Elaine, divorcees, widows and widowers, empty nesters, career changers, and others navigating significant life transitions who needed their physical spaces to support their emotional journeys. When I shared my business plan with Elaine over coffee, her eyes lit up. "This isn't just a good business idea, Marina. It's a calling. You're uniquely positioned to understand what people need during transformation." What happened next still feels like a turning point miracle. Elaine offered to be a co-signer on my business loan application, providing the financial credibility my new venture needed. Her belief in me was the final push I needed to take the leap. The conversation with my boss at the design firm was surprisingly painless. I'd expected resistance, or at least disappointment, but her reaction was coldly practical. "I've been considering letting you go anyway," she said bluntly. "Your personal issues have affected your work too much lately." Instead of feeling hurt, I felt liberated. "Thank you for your honesty. I hope my replacement brings the enthusiasm I once had for this position." I gave 2 weeks' notice, using evenings and weekends to hunt for affordable office space. What I found was a small storefront in an up-and-coming neighborhood, previously a bookshop that had relocated to larger quarters. The space needed work, but the bones were good, large windows for natural light. Original hardwood floors under tired carpet and an open layout that would showcase my design philosophy. The day I signed the lease was terrifying and exhilarating, using a significant portion of my savings for the security deposit, and first month's rent felt like jumping without a net, but for the first time in months, I was moving towards something rather than away from pain. I spent 2 weeks transforming the space myself, tearing up carpet, refinishing floors, painting walls in soothing yet energizing colors, and carefully selecting furniture that told stories of transformation. Each piece I chose demonstrated beauty, emerging from damaged tables made from reclaimed wood chairs reupholstered with sustainable fabrics, lighting fixtures created from repurposed materials. The transformation of the space mirrored my own emerging renewal. As I worked with my hands, sanding, painting, arranging, I felt reconnected to my body after months of emotional numbness. The physical labor was therapeutic, leaving me too exhausted for insomnia and giving me tangible proof of my capacity to create beauty from chaos. My grand opening was small but meaningful. Layla and her parents came along with Elaine and several women from her network. My grandmother sent flowers with a card that read, "Proud of you for making beauty from pain. That's what strong women do." The business cards I handed out featured a simple phoenix logo rising from stylized flames with my name and founder and principal designer beneath it. Seeing that title in print, claiming my expertise and vision, was another step in reclaiming my identity, separate from the roles of daughter, sister, and fiancé that had been so painfully stripped away. The first clients came through Elaine's network, professional women with resources and respect for my vision. Each project allowed me to refine my approach to transition design, as I began calling it. I learned to listen not just for color preferences and functional needs, but for the emotional journey my clients were navigating. For a recently widowed professor, I created a home office that honored her late husband's memory while giving her space to rediscover her academic passion. For a woman who'd left a toxic corporate environment to start her own business, I designed a home workspace that balanced professionalism with nurturing elements that her previous environment had lacked. As word spread about my specialized approach, I began receiving more requests than I could handle alone. 4 months after opening, I hired my first assistant, a design school graduate named Tara, who had survived her own family betrayal and connected deeply with Phoenix Interior's mission. My financial situation, which had been precarious in the beginning, stabilized and then flourished. By summer, I was earning more than I had at my previous firm, with the profound satisfaction of building something meaningful from my pain. The physical transformation that accompanied my professional rebirth wasn't planned, but it felt necessary. I donated the clothes I'd worn during my relationship with Jason and invested in a new wardrobe that reflected my emerging identity, stronger, more confident, with an edge of hard-won wisdom. I cut my long brown hair into a sleek bob that required less maintenance and projected capability. I joined a kickboxing gym, finding unexpected catharsis in the physical release of punching and kicking. My body grew stronger as my mind cleared, each supporting the other's healing. Dating remained off the table. I wasn't ready to trust that intimately again, but I built meaningful friendships within my new community of entrepreneurs and creators. Weekend hikes, pottery classes, and volunteer work filled the spaces where family gatherings had once been, creating a chosen family that supported rather than undermined my growth. The most significant milestone came when I'd saved enough to put a down payment on my own apartment, a sun-filled one-bedroom in a historic building with original architectural details I'd admired since design school. The day I signed the mortgage papers, I felt a profound sense of achievement. "This place is just for me," I told Layla as we celebrated with champagne amid moving boxes. "Not a compromise with a partner not chosen to please parents or impress others. It's exactly what I want." "To Marina's new beginning," Layla toasted, her eyes bright with pride. "And to the family you choose that actually deserves you." As spring turned to summer, the physical distance from my biological family began to match the emotional distance I'd established. The pain hadn't disappeared entirely, I doubted it ever would, but it had transformed from an acute debilitating agony to a dull ache that occasionally flared but no longer defined me. I was building something new from the ashes of betrayal, not despite the pain but because of it. My understanding of loss and renewal wasn't theoretical. It lived in my cells, informing every design choice and client interaction. The business that had been born from my darkest moment was thriving because of the authenticity that pain had taught me, and somewhere along the way, without fanfare or declaration, I had stopped being a victim and become a creator of spaces of community, and most importantly, of my own life's new direction. The email from my mother arrived in July, nearly 7 months after the Christmas exclusion. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity won out. The message was brief and characteristically self-centered. Marina, your grandparents' 50th anniversary celebration is August 15th at the country club. They've asked specifically for you to be there. Please don't make this difficult for them. Mum. No apology, no acknowledgement of the hurt they'd caused. Just an expectation that I would show up and play happy families for my grandparents' sake. My first instinct was to refuse, but my grandmother's unwavering support during my darkest moments made me reconsider. I called her directly, bypassing my mother entirely. Grandma, I got Mum's email about your anniversary celebration. Marina, sweetheart, her voice brightened. I've missed you so much. Will you come? It would mean the world to me. I want to be there for you, I said honestly. But things with Mum, Dad and Sophia are complicated. And I hear Jason might be there too. A telling silence followed. Marina, what exactly happened between all of you? Your mother tells me you had a disagreement and you're being stubborn about reconciliation. My heart sank. A disagreement, is that what she told you? When I explained the full situation, the affair, my family's betrayal, the Christmas exclusion, my grandmother's shocked gasps told me everything I needed to know. She'd been fed a sanitized version that cast me as the unreasonable one. I had no idea, she said, her voice shaking. Your mother told me you were upset about Jason and Sophia dating after you and Jason broke up. I didn't know he was your fiancé when it started, or that they went behind your back. They didn't just go behind my back, Grandma. My parents knew about the affair and didn't tell me. They've taken Sophia and Jason's side at every turn. Her silence spoke volumes. When she finally responded, her voice was resolute. You come to that party, Marina. You hold your head high. I'll handle the rest. After consulting with Dr. Winters and strategizing with Layla, I decided to attend. This would be my first time facing my family since establishing my new life, and I wanted to approach the encounter from a position of strength rather than victimhood. I chose my outfit carefully, a tailored cobalt blue dress that projected confidence paired with the delicate gold necklace my grandparents had given me for college graduation. My new bob was styled to perfection, and the physical changes from months of kickboxing were evident in my toned arms and improved posture. When I walked into the country club ballroom, conversations momentarily hushed. I spotted my parents near the bar, my mother's expression freezing when she saw me. Sophia and Jason stood nearby, his arm around her waist, my former engagement ring glinting on her finger. Taking a deep breath, I headed straight for my grandparents, embracing them warmly. You look radiant, my grandmother whispered, holding me at arm's length to examine me. There's something different about you, something stronger. Life has a way of teaching us what we're made of, I replied with a genuine smile. Throughout the cocktail hour, I circulated confidently, chatting with relatives I hadn't seen in months. Many seemed surprised by my composed demeanor, perhaps having expected the emotional wreck Sophia had likely described in my absence. The inevitable confrontation came as I was selecting hors d'oeuvres from a passing tray. Jason approached, looking uncomfortable but determined. Marina, you look well, he said, his familiar voice sending a brief pang through my chest, not of longing but of recognition of how much had changed. Thank you, I replied coolly. Congratulations on your relationship. The word felt inadequate for what they'd built on betrayal, but social niceties demanded something. "I never meant to hurt you," he said, lowering his voice. "It just happened. Sophia and I cut him off with a raised hand. "I'm not interested in explanations or justifications, Jason. What's done is done. I wish you both exactly what you deserve." Before he could respond, Sophia appeared at his side, her expression a mix of defensiveness and curiosity. "Marina, I'm surprised you came." "Grandma specifically requested my presence," I replied, noting how Sophia's eyes narrowed at the implication that our grandmother had a special relationship with me. "Well, it's good that you're finally being mature about everything," she said, her condescending tone so familiar it almost made me laugh. "Maybe now we can all move forward as a family." "I've already moved forward," I replied calmly. "But thank you for your concern." As I turned to walk away, I caught a glimpse of something unexpected in Jason's expression. Regret, perhaps, or simply recognition that the woman before him was not the same one he had betrayed. My parents approached next, clearly feeling obligated to acknowledge my presence. My father attempted an awkward half-hug, while my mother assessed my appearance with critical eyes. "You've lost weight," she observed, her tone implying this was somehow a negative development. "I've gained clarity," I countered with a smile. "It's been quite transformative." The stilted conversation that followed revealed how little they knew about my current life. They asked no questions about where I was living or working, seemingly content to maintain the narrative that I was still nursing my wounds in isolation. The dynamic shifted dramatically during dinner. My grandmother, elegant in her anniversary finery, clinked her glass for attention and began what seemed like a standard speech about enduring love and family loyalty. Then she veered into unexpected territory. "Family means standing by each other through difficulties," she said, her gaze sweeping the room. "It means honesty and integrity even when truth is inconvenient. It means protecting those you love from harm, not causing it." The pointed nature of her comments wasn't lost on anyone. My mother shifted uncomfortably in her seat as my grandmother continued. "I've recently learned that our family has failed to uphold these values in a significant way. Betrayal has been rewarded and loyalty punished. This is not the legacy Robert and I intended to create." Murmurs rippled through the gathered relatives. My grandfather, usually quiet, took the microphone next. "Marina," he said, addressing me directly, "we want you to know that true family stands with those who have been wronged, not those who have done wrong. We're proud of the strength you've shown in the face of unforgivable betrayal." The public acknowledgement brought unexpected tears to my eyes. Across the table, my mother's face had flushed deep red, while my father studied his plate intently. Sophia, for once, seemed at a loss for words. When dinner ended and the dancing began, relatives who had previously avoided me now approached with questions about my new business, having heard snippets from my grandparents. I shared my story openly without bitterness or self-pity, watching understanding dawn in their eyes. "You started your own design firm?" my cousin Amber asked, clearly impressed. "That's incredible, especially after everything you've been through." "Sometimes the worst experiences lead to unexpected opportunities," I replied. "Phoenix Interiors might never have existed if my life had gone according to plan." As the evening progressed, I noticed Jason and Sophia arguing in a corner, their body language tense. Later, I overheard a revealing fragment as I passed the ladies' room. "You said she was falling apart," Sophia hissed to someone inside. "She looks better than ever, and Grandma practically announced to everyone that we're the villains." "What did you expect?" came the reply, my mother's voice. "That she'd stay broken forever. Your sister was always stubborn." I walked away, a smile tugging at my lips. They had expected my destruction to be permanent, had perhaps counted on it to justify their actions. My recovery and success were disrupting their carefully constructed narrative. As the celebration wound down, I said my goodbyes to my grandparents, promising to visit them in Florida soon. When I headed to the parking lot, my mother followed me, catching my arm near my car. "Marina, wait," she said, her voice lacking its usual authority. "We should talk." I turned to face her, calm and centered in a way I couldn't have managed months earlier. "I'm listening." "You've obviously moved on with your life," she began awkwardly. "Maybe it's time we all put this unpleasantness behind us. Your father and I have been thinking that perhaps you could join us for Thanksgiving this year." The invitation, presented not as an apology but as a concession, revealed how little she had learned. And would Jason and Sophia be there? Her hesitation told me everything. "They're part of the family now, Marina. You'll have to accept that eventually." I smiled, feeling genuine pity for a woman who understood so little about love, loyalty, and respect. "Mum, I've built a new life. A good one. I have people around me who value me, support me, and would never betray me for their own convenience." "We're still your family," she insisted, a note of desperation creeping into her voice. "Biology made us relatives," I replied, echoing Layla's mother's wise words. "But love makes a family. What you Dad and Sophia showed me wasn't love. It was selfishness disguised as practicality." "So you're just going to throw away 29 years of family over one mistake?" she demanded. "It wasn't one mistake. It was a series of deliberate choices. To betray, to lie, to exclude, to blame the victim. And I'm not throwing anything away. I'm choosing to build something healthier instead." I got into my car, rolling down the window for a final word. "I forgive you all not because you deserve it, but because I deserve peace. That forgiveness doesn't mean I'll expose myself to more harm. I wish you well, but from a distance that protects my heart." As I drove away, watching her shrinking figure in my rearview mirror, I felt the last chains of resentment begin to loosen. I hadn't returned to the family fold as they'd perhaps hoped. Instead, I had shown them that their actions had consequences. Not my destruction, but my liberation. The woman driving confidently toward her new life bore little resemblance to the devastated fiancé who had fled her parents' house 7 months earlier. Phoenix-like, I had risen from the ashes of betrayal, not despite the fire, but because of it, transformed by the very flames that were meant to destroy me. 1 year has passed since that fateful day when I walked in on Jason and Sophia. What began as the most painful experience of my life has transformed into the catalyst for my greatest growth. Looking back, I see now that the journey through betrayal taught me lessons I might never have learned otherwise. The early days of healing were excruciating. Therapy sessions often ended with me sobbing uncontrollably, struggling to understand how the people I trusted most could hurt me so deeply. Dr. Winters guided me through exercises to process my grief, anger, and disillusionment. She helped me see that forgiveness wasn't about excusing their behavior, but about freeing myself from the burden of resentment. Holding on to anger, she once told me, is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Those words stuck with me, becoming a mantra during moments when bitterness threatened to pull me back into darkness. The breakthrough came during a session in early spring when I realized I no longer needed my family's validation to feel worthy. Their betrayal wasn't a reflection of my value, but of their character. As Phoenix interiors flourished, I established new traditions to replace the family gatherings that had once anchored my year. For Thanksgiving, I hosted a chosen family dinner inviting clients who had become friends, colleagues, who had supported my vision, and of course, Layla and her parents. Instead of focusing on traditional obligations, we celebrated the connections we had deliberately chosen and nurtured. The Christmas that followed was nothing like the lonely day I had dreaded a year earlier. My newly purchased apartment became a gathering place for friends without family plans. We created our own rituals, a competitive gingerbread house contest, a gift exchange where presents had to be experiences rather than objects, and a potluck feast representing our diverse cultural backgrounds. An unexpected relationship blossomed during this period of rebuilding. My father's sister, Aunt Catherine, reached out after learning the full story from my grandparents. She had been estranged from my father for years, a family rift I'd never fully understood. "Your father did something similar to me decades ago," she revealed during our first lunch together. "He sided with a business partner who cheated me out of my inheritance. Your mother backed him, of course." I was written off as the difficult one for not moving past it. Finding this connection, someone who had walked a similar path of family betrayal and emerged strong, was a gift I never anticipated. Catherine became a mentor and friend, sharing wisdom gained from her journey of creating a fulfilling life independent of toxic family dynamics. The karmic twist that no one saw coming arrived via a tearful phone call from my grandmother in November. Jason had been caught cheating on Sophia with one of her friends. The ensuing drama had fractured the alliance between my sister and parents, with Sophia feeling betrayed by their attempts to keep the peace. By suggesting she forgive Jason, the very same pressure they had applied to me. "It's like watching history repeat itself," my grandmother said, not without a touch of grim satisfaction. "Sophia expected them to cut Jason off completely, but your father is concerned about family harmony at the holidays." While I took no pleasure in Sophia's pain, the situation revealed the pattern at the heart of my family's dysfunction, the prioritization of appearances over authenticity, of convenience over integrity. It confirmed that walking away had been an act of self-preservation, not selfishness. My parents made several attempts at reconciliation as the months passed, each approach revealing their unchanged perspective. My mother's texts gradually evolved from demanding, "We need to move past this," to bargaining, "What will it take for you to come to Sunday dinner?" My father called on my birthday, awkwardly offering financial assistance for my business, perhaps the only language of care he truly understood. I maintained polite but firm boundaries with each contact, neither hostile nor overly warm. When they pressed for closer involvement in my life, I explained my terms clearly. Genuine acknowledgement of the harm done, sincere apology, and demonstrated change in behavior, not just toward me but in how they handled conflict and loyalty in general. "I can't just pretend nothing happened," I told my father during one difficult conversation. "That wouldn't be healing, it would be denial." The relationship that surprised me most was with Michael, a client's brother, who came to a Phoenix Interiors open house last fall. A structural engineer with kind eyes and a thoughtful manner, he asked questions about my design philosophy that went beyond polite interest. Our first coffee meeting to discuss a potential collaboration between his engineering firm and my design studio gradually shifted from professional to personal. His own history included a difficult divorce after his ex-wife's infidelity, giving him insight into betrayal's unique pain. Unlike earlier attempts at dating where I'd felt the need to hide my emotional scars with Michael, I could be honest about my journey. He respected my cautious pace and the boundaries I established, never pushing for more than I was ready to give. 6 months into our relationship, trust has slowly rebuilt in my heart. Michael demonstrates reliability in small, consistent ways, calling when he says he will, remembering details I share, showing up not just for celebrations but for difficult moments. We're building something fundamentally different from what I had with Jason, a connection based on mutual respect rather than convenience or appearance. Phoenix Interiors has expanded beyond my wildest expectations. The small storefront has grown to include 3 additional designers who share my vision of creating healing spaces. We've developed a reputation for understanding the emotional dimensions of interior design, particularly for clients in transition. The support group I started as a monthly gathering for clients has evolved into a registered nonprofit called Rebuilding Spaces, offering design services to women leaving abusive relationships. Using donations from suppliers and volunteer work from my team, we've helped 20 women create safe, nurturing homes that support their healing journeys. The most profound lesson I've learned through this experience is that self-worth is not determined by others' treatment of us. Family should be a source of support and love, but when it becomes a source of harm, creating boundaries is an act of self-care, not selfishness. I've also learned that pain creates space for new growth. Had my life continued on its expected path, marriage to Jason, holidays with my family, the comfortable certainty of established relationships, I would never have discovered my entrepreneurial abilities, formed my chosen family of authentic connections, or developed the emotional resilience I now possess. Last week, I hosted Christmas at my home, looking around at the gathering of people who had chosen to be there, Layla and her parents, Aunt Catherine, my grandparents who had flown in from Florida, Michael and friends who had supported my journey. I felt a completeness that had nothing to do with biological connection and everything to do with authentic love. The betrayal that once defined my life has become just one chapter in a much larger story. The pain hasn't disappeared entirely. There are still moments when memories catch me off guard, but it no longer controls my narrative. Instead, it has become the compost from which a more authentic, intentional life has grown. To anyone experiencing similar betrayal by those who should protect you most, I offer this truth. Sometimes seeing people clearly, even when what you see hurts beyond measure, is the greatest gift you can receive. It creates the opportunity to build connections based on truth rather than obligation, to choose your family rather than simply inheriting it. Have you ever had to walk away from a relationship or family situation to protect your well-being? How did you rebuild afterward? Share your story in the comments below, and remember to subscribe to hear more journeys of transformation and resilience. Thank you for witnessing my story, and may you find the courage to write your own. Not despite your pain, but through it and beyond it.